working to connect a region of over 600 million bridges between our lands.
Hello and welcome to ASEAN in Focus. I'm Maricar Velasco.
Delivering to you the latest news in and around the ASEAN region, I'm Mariel Soriano.
On today's headlines, Typhoon Mangkhut slammed into mainland China late Sunday after leaving a trail of destruction in Hong Kong and Macau after killing at least 59 people in the northern Philippines.
According to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, the death toll due to the onslaught of Typhoon Ompong in northern Luzon is feared to further increase as search and retrieval operations come into full gear in the mining town of Itogon, Benguet.
Participants in a panel on the geopolitics of trade agreed at a session of the World Economic Forum on ASEAN agreed that ASEAN unity and economic integration are the key factors for its members as trade tensions between the United States and China escalates. Typhoon Mangkhut slammed into mainland China late Sunday after leaving a trail of destruction in Hong Kong and Macau after killing at least 59 people in the northern Philippines. The world's biggest storm this year felled trees and sent skyscrapers swaying in high-rise Hong Kong, injuring more than 200 people there before making landfall on the coast of Jiangmen City in southern China's Guangdong province. Provincial authorities said they evacuated a total of 2.37 million people and ordered tens of thousands of fishing boats back to port before the arrival of what Chinese media has dubbed the, quote, king of storms. State-run China Central Television reported the typhoon had killed 2 people in Guangdong. As the storm passed south of Hong Kong, trees were snapped in half and roads blocked, while some windows in tower blocks were smashed and skyscrapers swayed, as they are designed to do in intense gales. The Philippines was just beginning to count the cost of the typhoon, which hit northern Luzon on Saturday. The death toll jumped to 59 on Sunday evening, police said, as more landslide victims were discovered.
The Department of Foreign Affairs, or DFA, reported that at least 2 Filipinos were hurt and 41 were rescued as Typhoon Mangkhut lashed Hong Kong over the weekend. Consul General Antonio Morales said a Filipino tourist underwent leg surgery after she was hit by flying debris. Another Filipino was also hurt by falling debris but needed no hospital treatment. In his report to the DFA, he said the Consulate General assisted 36 members of a Filipino tour group who were stranded after the windshield of the bus that was supposed to bring them to the airport was shattered by strong winds. He said a bus was sent to rescue the group and bring them back to their hotel. 5 Filipino workers of a dive resort development were also rescued by Hong Kong authorities. Morales also said the Overseas Workers Welfare Administration, or OWA, received calls from Filipino household service workers who sustained minor injuries but needed no hospital treatment. The envoy also said his officers and staff are all safe and that their consular operations have resumed on Monday. The DFA, together with the Consulate General, continues to monitor the situation in Hong Kong in the aftermath of the typhoon. According to DFA's estimate, there are around 227,000 Filipinos currently in Hong Kong. Filipinos in the territory who may require assistance are urged to call 999 or the consulate hotline at 852-9155-4023.
The European Union, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, as well as China on Sunday expressed readiness to assist the Philippines in its recovery and relief operations as Typhoon Ompong, international name Mangkhut, battered northern Luzon. ASEAN, meanwhile, through its Coordinating Center for Humanitarian Assistance, also noted that the bloc is prepared to extend all help to the typhoon-ravaged parts of the Philippines should the country request assistance. China's Ministry of Foreign Affairs said China will help the Philippines within its capacity as soon as possible. Foreign Ministry spokesperson Geng Shuang relayed Beijing's deep condolences to the impact, the casualties, and the property loss the country suffered from the typhoon. The Chinese official also confirmed that the scheduled visit of State Councilor and Foreign Minister Wang Yi was suspended pending a new date to be determined by the two sides' diplomatic channel. Mangkhut was the strongest typhoon to hit the Philippines this year.
The Philippines can seek help from Association of Southeast Asian Nations or ASEAN should Typhoon Ompong cause significant damage to parts of the country. NDRRMC Executive Director Ricardo Halad said the One ASEAN One Response Accord refers to the close cooperation among members to help Southeast Asian nations hit by calamities.
In the event that the capacity of the government is overwhelmed, we can also seek international assistance first under through the One ASEAN One Response, wherein the President was a co-signatory. The ASEAN member countries will come to the aid of the Philippines, and in fact the ASEAN humanitarian assistance already expressed intention to help us in the event that we will ask for assistance.
In the town of Bagao, the typhoon demolished houses, tore off roofs, and drowned power lines. Some roads were cut off by landslides and many remained submerged. Farms across northern Luzon, which produces much of the nation's rice and corn, were swamped by muddy flood water. Their crops ruined just a month before harvest.
Residents were delighted to see President Rodrigo Duterte in the province on Sunday as he inspected the extent of damages left by Typhoon Ompong. Latest report from the Agriculture Department showed an estimated 75% loss in rice, or about 1.5 billion pesos worth of damages, and 123 million pesos in vegetables. Due to preemptive evacuation and identification of temporary animal shelters in various parts of the province. Before Ompong landed, the Provincial Veterinary Office, upon instruction of Governor Aimee Marcos, conducted veterinary missions and provided vitamins and electrolyte supplementation. Prior to Duterte's closed-in meeting at the Capitol Session Hall on Sunday afternoon, he requested farmer leaders to be present during the consultation and validation of estimated damages.
This is not to belittle the problem, but it is not as bad as Yolanda or the other typhoons that visited this country. Minimal, although it would amount to billions, especially the crops. It's glad that we came over to see for ourselves. The cabinet was there, so I gave the order to what to do. So faster implementation, and hopefully the rule is go back to normalcy as soon as possible.
Hoping to lessen woes and casualties during calamities, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Sunday said evacuation centers should be set up in towns and cities frequented by typhoons. The president, who led the command conference and news briefing, hatched the idea after an aerial inspection of Typhoon Ompong's damage in Cagayan Valley, Ilocos, and Cordillera regions. He tasked Department of Public Works and Highways Secretary Mark Villar to conduct a feasibility study on building exclusive or dedicated evacuation centers, saying that the use of schools as temporary shelters during calamities hamper the learning of students. As per the president, the gymnasium-like evacuation centers would cater to more evacuees and will not hamper schooling. Duterte said he will visit the church building that collapsed in Itogon, Benguet when he visits Cordillera region today to assess the typhoon's damage. Benguet was one of the areas severely damaged by Ompong, which hit northern Luzon on Saturday. Aside from Tuguegarao City, Duterte also visited Lawag City in Ilocos Norte on Sunday. The president said he will also visit Baguio City and other areas in the Cordillera region.
Meanwhile, according to presidential spokesperson Harry Roque, the death toll due to the onslaught of Typhoon Ompong in northern Luzon is feared to further increase as search and retrieval operations come into full gear in the mining town of Itogon, Benguet. President Rodrigo Duterte is now on its way to Benguet to attend a press briefing that will be led by Governor Crescencio Palcaso, as the death toll of the Typhoon Ompong's onslaught in northern Luzon has reached 59 according to the latest data. Based on the latest information provided by the Armed Forces of the Philippines, there are 43 reported dead in the landslide in the mining town of Itogon in Benguet alone. One escaped the landslide while 30 more are listed as missing. Philippine National Police Chief Superintendent Oscar Abayalde will also be attending the press briefing together with presidential spokesperson Harry Roque. Of the 59 casualties due to Typhoon Ompong, 53 were reported in the Cordillera region, mostly victims of landslides. 5 were reported in Nueva Vizcaya and 1 from Ilocos Sur. Abayalde and Roque will conduct an aerial survey of Itogon to check the damage caused by the devastating typhoon. Abayalde said that a 24-hour man search and rescue platoon from the PNP Special Action Force was sent to Itogon, Benguet on Sunday to assist the search for survivors of massive landslides. He said that the PNP is also shifting gear from search and rescue to more law enforcement and order functions and providing support to relief and rehabilitation functions to hasten return to normality of the areas affected by Typhoon Ompong.
Magandang umaga, Ilocos! Dito na ako, I'm back!
Mga tao na may gusto ng sports or activities.
Pupunta rin tayo sa Luna's house.
Kung anong gagawin ng mga tipid trip.
Welcome back. A malaria outbreak has infected at least 137 people in Indonesia's West Lombok after the island was rocked by a series of earthquakes in recent months. The quakes and aftershocks since July have killed about 500 people and forced hundreds of thousands into evacuation shelters. As a result, the number of malaria cases is twice as high as in the same period last year, prompting the West Lombok government to declare a health emergency. Among the 137 infected are babies and pregnant women.
Apalagi ini yang daerah dataran tinggi ini harus banyak semua memakai kelambu sebenarnya.
Jadi sangat minim.
Sangat minim sekali. Kami kemarin bawa kelambu, ini persiapan cuma 2. Siapa yang positif itu yang akan kita kasih.
Semuanya warga di sini belum ada kelambu sama sekali. Jadi kita kalau memang ada program dari pemerintah silahkan untuk dipercepat. Soalnya di sini kan sekarang mau dekat musim hujan, kita khawatir nanti anak-anak kecil kita juga kena malaria kayak apa itu.
The government has taken steps to prevent the disease from spreading, such as taking blood samples, distributing mosquito nets, and fogging. The head of West Lombok Regency, Fauzan Halid, told media they only have 3,000 mosquito nets but need about 10,000. Declaration of a health emergency will allow West Lombok to seek 3.4 billion rupiah or $230,000 in aid from the provincial and central government to tackle the crisis. Indonesia's rainy season is expected to start next month, raising fears malaria-carrying mosquitoes could breed in stagnant water.
Three Indonesian fishermen held by members of a notorious Islamist kidnap for ransom group have walked free 18 months after they were abducted off the southern Philippines. According to the military, the men were kidnapped in January of 2017 while on board a speedboat off the southernmost island group of Tawi-Tawi, which together with the nearby Sulu archipelago are preyed on by Abu Sayyaf militants. According to a regional army spokesman, the Indonesians were freed in the town of Danan in Sulu on Saturday and turned over to authorities following intensified military operations against the Abu Sayyaf. Asked if a ransom was paid, Lieutenant Colonel Jerry Besana told media there was definitely no ransom given and that they were pressured by their operations. The Abu Sayyaf has been known to behead hostages unless ransom payments are made. The group is a loose network of militants formed in the 1990s with seed money from Osama bin Laden's Al-Qaeda network. It has earned millions of dollars from banditry and kidnapping for ransom, often targeting foreigners. The rise in abductions sparked Indonesian warning that the region could become the next Somalia and pushed the three neighbors to pledge joint naval patrols. On Sunday, the Philippine military identified the three Indonesians as Hamdam bin Salim, 34, Suban de Sato, 27, and Sudarlan Samansung, 41. The hostages were brought to a military hospital and turned over to the Indonesian ambassador, who was to accompany them to the Philippine capital, Manila, a military statement said. The Abu Sayyaf is still holding 11 hostages, including a Dutch birdwatcher abducted in 2012 and a Vietnamese captive, according to Besana.
Several dozen people rallied in central Yangon on Sunday against the jailing of two Reuters journalists, lamenting the shrinking space for free expression in Myanmar despite the advent of civilian rule. Walon, 32, and Kiao So-o, 28, were sentenced 2 weeks ago to 7 years behind bars under the Official Secrets Act. The judgment sent shockwaves through the country's nascent community of journalists because it echoed life under the former junta, when the press was heavily censored and reports routinely jailed. The ruling also sparked a global outcry against Myanmar's army and against de facto civilian leader Aung San Suu Kyi for failing to speak up for the pair.
တရားရေးကနေပြီးတော့ဒီကိုဝါလုံးနဲ့ကိုကျော်တိုးတို့ပုံမှာထောင်ဒဏ်9နှစ်ချမှတ်လိုက်ခြင်းကိုကျွန်တော်တို့အနေနဲ့ပြင်းထန်စွာကန့်ကွက်ရှုံချတယ်။အဲ့ဒီဟာကိုကျွန်တော်မခံမျက်နှာဖြစ်ပြီးတော့ကျွန်တော်တို့လမ်းပေါ်ထွက်ပြီးတော့ဆန္ဒပြကြခြင်းဖြစ်ပါတယ်။ကျွန်တော်တို့မှာလွတ်လပ်စွာထုတ်ဖော်ပြောဆိုခွင့်ဟာဒီလက်ရှိအခြေအနေမှာအတော်ကိုဆိုးရွားတဲ့အခြေအနေတစ်ခုဖြစ်နေပြီလို့ကျွန်တော်တို့ပြောချင်တယ်။
Participants in a panel of the geopolitics of trade agreed at a session of the World Economic Forum on ASEAN agreed that ASEAN unity and economic integration are the key factors for its members as trade tensions between the United States and China escalate. Ignatius Darrell, King Minister of International Trade and Industry of Malaysia, said that we need to start taking the opportunity of what was already built several years ago, and that is ASEAN.
That ASEAN should start thinking about consolidating together once more, talking less of being Thanos, taking away the Thanos in us, because at the end Thanos did die, by the way. So we need to take away that greed about our own selves, and we need to start taking opportunity of what was already built several years ago, and that is ASEAN. We have +6. We have the other nations that are working with ASEAN as well. So we can create an economy through ASEAN where we can cushion all the effects of this uncertain American and Chinese trade war. And how do we begin? Where do we start? I would propose that during the ASEAN meeting, the leaders of ASEAN, the economic ministers as well as the head of states, should just say, okay, enough of all the talk about our own country or the deficit of our country, where some country says, oh, we are least developed than you, or we are more developed than you. Forget about that in ASEAN. Work as a singular ASEAN as an economy. Work as a singular ASEAN to trade between ourselves and make it seamless between ourselves. So that could, and not 100%, but that could probably reduce the impact that is forthcoming because of this tariff war.
That being said, Daryl, the regional diversity that makes up the RCEP membership, or I should say the potential RCEP membership,
yes,
could potentially be something of a stumbling block, because a lot of these countries are at very, very different stages of their economic development. How will the negotiators square that circle?
The negotiators should have in their mind the idea during RCEP discussion that the intention is to prosper thy neighbor. If all our neighbors prosper together, whereby we help each other, whereby we input to each other on how to develop their country into similar, equal status as the others, then we'll be all right. We'll do all right.
Alan Bollard, Executive Director of the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation, or APEC Secretariat, Singapore, said it was unclear how far relations might deteriorate given the direction of global trade.
And if there's $60 billion of trade into US with 25% tariff and vice versa, and a threat of $200 billion of trade under tariff of that sort, that's, I don't know where trade friction becomes trade war, but it doesn't look very good at all. We can move back from some of that, but that's the way it's looking at the moment. And I hope we'll be able to talk about some of the ongoing effects, because it's not just US and China. There's some very big currents right around this region coming from that.
Yasuo Tanabe, Senior Vice President and Senior Corporate Officer at Hitachi, Japan, said there are solutions.
You know, what's happening now between US and China is a kind of deja vu to me. So there are certain solutions. Back in 1970s, 1980s, we often pressured by the US with the Super 301, so kind of gunboat operation. And we negotiated on many issues, almost all sectors. And we ended up, in most cases, sometimes voluntary export restraint, or sometimes voluntary import expansion program by private sectors. So that kind of things, that time, say 30 years ago, have worked to soothe calm the situation.
100%, but that could probably.
Beyond boosting intra-ASEAN trade to help protect the bloc from global disruption, Bollard pointed out that the current circumstances have seen other countries step up to take the lead in major trade agreements, such as the Trans-Pacific Partnership, and may encourage others to follow suit.
I mean, best possible that we see some of the policies that have been put in place being pulled back, that we see the current account deficit of the United States, that, well, actually, it's the merchandise trade deficit with a focus on the manufacturing sector, to be precise. We see that particular deficit against China, because that's the one that's the really big one, pulling back, but it's not happening at the moment. And we're going through a period when, after all, we are seeing a bipolar world move into a multipolar one, and that's been happening. Who would have thought that Japan would have taken leadership of the TPP? I would never have thought that would happen. It has happened. Is it possible that India could do the same thing on RCEP?
We're close.
What should we, or should the WTO do? Should the Doha round's not going anywhere? It should be focused on plurilateral initiatives, so particular sectoral advances that can work amongst particular groups of countries that are willing to meet and do that. Information technology agreement, environmental goods arrangement, those sort of things. As for disputes, It's a big, big problem, and I don't know how that gets solved.
Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sure we
And that is the latest news in the Southeast Asian nations. I'm Mariel Soriano.
Stay updated about the ASEAN region. I'm Maricar Velasco. And
We are one with 25.